Ladies and gentlemen, boy, the stories are coming out almost every day about all the support that Joe Biden is losing among black voters. And this one says black and Hispanic support is eroding for Joe Biden. Mm. President Joe Biden is underperforming among non white voters. In New York Times and Siena College national polls over the last year, helping to keep the race close in a hypothetical rematch against Donald J. Trump. On average, Mr. Biden leads Mr. Trump by 53% to 28% among registered non white voters. The results represent a marked deterioration in Biden's support compared with 2020, when he won more than 70% of non white voters. If he's unable to revitalize his support by November, it will come down to a trend of declining Democratic strength among voters, considered to be a foundation of the party. Well, they need to learn how to take care of their foundation. They haven't done a very good job at all. Mr. Biden's tepid support among these voters appear to be mostly responsible for the close race in the early national surveys, which shows Mr. Biden and Donald Trump all but tied among registered voters, even as Biden he runs well among white Democratic voters. But if you've been with me for a long time, you would know the non-white voters outnumber the white voters in the Democratic Party. So he can't just rely on white Democratic voters. It's not enough to help him win. With more than a year to go until the election, there's plenty of time for Biden to re energize his former supporters. Indeed, he would have to do something at this point, and giving a holiday and the little remedial things that he has done, that's not going to inspire no one. We need something tangible. How about a crime bill? Being that we are the most killed in the country, a crime bill, yeah, might want to go in that direction. And also, don't forget our reparations. Give us what we're asking for and stop giving us a bunch of symbolism. We don't want it. So, anyway, I'm going to show you this chart that recently came out. Okay, this is a chart that the New York Times just put out, and it shows Joe Biden's Democratic support among non white voters. And as you can see, it's declining among every group. And if you look down on the bottom, he is still running steady with white voters. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, they're still talking about there's a possibility that he can turn this around, but Democrats in general have lost ground among non white voters in almost every election over the past decade, even as racially charged fights over everything from the border wall to kneeling during the national anthem might have been expected to produce the exact opposite result. Weak support for Joe Biden could easily manifest itself as low turnout, as it did in 2022, even if many young or less engaged voters ultimately do not vote for Trump. Many of Biden's vulnerable. Things like his age and inflation are really hurting him at this point, as many non white voters tend to be younger and less affluent than white voters. Overall, the president's approval stands at 47% among non white voters. Okay. And his favorability rating is 54%. So I can only see this getting worse, especially if his intention is to go on and do nothing, especially for us. I can see this getting even worse for him. And I think the reason why these articles keep coming out every day, because they see it, they see what's happening. But if you notice, no one is saying, okay, we need to turn this thing around. And they do. If they want him to have a second term, they're going to have to do it. So, Mr. Biden's weakness among non white voters is broad, spanning virtually every demographic, category, and racial group, including a 72-11 lead among black voters and a 47-35 lead among Hispanic registrants. The sample of Asian voters is not large enough to report. Now, did you hear that? The Asian vote is not large enough to even give numbers, but they got the crime bill. And that right there, they're admitting really not that many Asians even vote Democrat, but they got the crime bill. Mm-mm-mm. Though non white voters who aren't black or Hispanic, whether Asian, Native American, multiracial, or something else, backed Mr. Biden by 40 to 39. In all three cases, Mr. Biden's tallies are well beneath his standing in the last election. The findings echoed by other high quality national surveys. These show that Biden's faring as poorly among non white voters as he does in the Times and Siena data. On average, he leads by 74 to 19 among black voters and by 50 to 40 among Hispanic voters across 12 quality national surveys so far this year. So they are definitely acknowledging there is a shift in support for Joe Biden. Overall, non white respondents who divulged their vote in the last election reported backing Mr. Biden by a margin of 70% to 24%, a figure neatly in line with other studies. Mr. Biden does not approach those tallies with a hypothetical rematch among the very same group of respondents. But the survey finds evidence that a modest but important 5% of non white Biden voters now support Trump, including 8% of Hispanic voters who say they backed Biden in 2020, but they will back Trump in 2024. So, beyond voters who have flipped to Donald Trump, a large number of disaffected voters who supported Biden in 2020 now say they're undecided or simply won't vote this time around. As a consequence, his weakness is concentrated among less engaged voters who have not consistently voted in recent elections and who may decide to stay home next year. Overall, Joe Biden leads by 81 to 8 among black voters who turned out in 2022, but just 62 to 14 among those who skip the midterm elections. He leads by 53 to 33 among Hispanics who voted during midterms, compared to just 42 to 37 lead among those who did not vote. Young people of color who make up a disproportionate share of non-voters are an important part of Biden's challenge. He holds a 48 to 29 lead among non-white registered voters under the age of 45, compared with 58 to 28 lead among those over 45. In contrast, there's little difference among non-white voters over or under 45 in their share of support for Biden in 2020. As a result, that's echoed in the self reported recall 2020 vote choice of the Time Siena survey respondents. So, generational divide is most striking among Black voters who have typically offered all but ununanimous support to Democrats, which they absolutely don't deserve because they do nothing for us. That overwhelming support persists among Black registered voters over 45. They back Biden 83 to 8. But Mr. Biden holds just a 59-14 lead among registered Black respondents under 45. The dissatisfaction of younger and lower turnout voters rise the possibility that Biden's weakness in the poll may show up at the primaries among Black and Hispanic voters. Something similar might have happened in the last midterm election when Democrats appeared to maintain usual shares of support among Black voters, but the racial turnout gap increased to multi decade highs. Yeah, but no matter what, I know that the support is waning for Joe Biden, but Joe Biden still have not come out to say a thing. Trust me, they're watching all this stuff just like we are. And they know what's going on. They know they're losing this support. And see, before they could give a little lip service and everybody was okay. I don't think it's going to be that way this time around. If he comes to the table with nothing but his mouth, he may not get that turnout that he's looking for. And as of now, we haven't seen them even try to address this at all. They haven't done anything. So, y'all, please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.